Hello, time for another week on the run, full week's vlog. So had a short week last week, but thought I'd just do a quick highlights. Back on it full time this week. I say full time. It's Monday evening now. I didn't actually start today until like 11:30, so it's more like a half day, just because I had things to sort out from the weekend I was away, so stuff to do at home. Even had a few admin things to do. And what else was it? Yeah, I actually went for a run and stuff because I didn't get much chance to get exercise on the weekend. Had a really nice weekend off with my two sons and my brother, just in a static caravan in North Wales. But yeah, really good. Anyway, yeah, so today is week commencing, 10th of May. So fuel prices, as ever, the Shell card for UK fuels is, have I got this right? 1 second. Yeah, I'd written the wrong way down. Wrong way round. So UK fuels is 102.15, so it's gone up a fair bit. The block or BWOC is now 101.27, so yeah, 90p a litre cheaper before the VAT. So I'm going to be using the BWOC or block card this week. So yeah, I used the Shell card last few weeks, but yeah, I think Shell kind of realised they're getting my business again, maybe, and start putting it up. And I think the fuel price has gone up again in the last 2 to 3 weeks, which is a pain, but not a lot you can do about it. So that's fuel price for the week. Like I said, I didn't start this morning until like 11:30. I actually got a job just before midday, or maybe 10 to midday. Didn't take long. The feed was quite busy. It's good to see. Obviously, I got a job from Wolverhampton. It was a Wolverhampton postcode. It was just off the M54, really. If you're heading towards Telford, you come off, and it's not far from like that I-54 business park. Yeah, and I knew when a job came through properly, it said 900 kilograms, one pallet, and it was down to Neath. Set out to be picking up from a new housing estate they're building. Just your typical large housing estate development. Had a contact name but no number, so go to the site office. No one there to talk to from management, so some guy to phone one of the managers, and he came back and says, oh yeah, the guy there at the far end of the site, the ground workers on the, they build these things in phases, so some of the houses are built, these were like the guys doing one of the next phases, just getting the groundworks done, all the excavators and stuff. Go up there, speak to a guy, because I had two names. He goes, all right, one's in that excavator over there in the distance, the other one's in the office, little cabin, shipping container type cabin office thing. So right, definitely that one. Go there to speak to him. He doesn't know anything about it. Tries to ring the guy on the excavator. He's on the phone to someone, so he can't get through. And he says, right, you sit in your van, I'll go and wander over, see if he knows anything about it. He comes back and he goes, yeah, apparently it was an excavator bucket. And he said that, I was like, oh Christ, because I think it might be absolutely filthy and stuff. Ground workers excavator bucket didn't sound great. Turns out it was a new one that had been delivered there in error. Apparently they ordered one without picks, the little teeth on the front of it, but this one had come with the teeth on the front. Yeah, bear with a sec. Yeah, so eventually they turn up with this excavator bucket put on a pallet. It was brand new, but it still had a bit of bloody water in it, muddy water in it, and a bit of grit and gravel that made a bit of a mess of the van. And I was kind of looking at it thinking, God, that looks heavy. So I asked the guy, what's it weigh? And something to note in the future, if you ever get one of these, there's like a plate on it. Maybe they have to have it on all the excavator buckets, and it actually said the weight on there. So, and it was 850 kilograms. So weight wasn't too bad. The only issue was it was way too far back on the van. Ideally I would have had it further forward, So put it on this pallet. It was 1.2 meters wide, this bucket, so it's bloody big. In the back doors, cross strapped it and then strapped it from the rear pillar, like the rear doors where they attach that pillar, sort of both sides as well, holding it back. So if I did have to do an emergency stop or something, that's holding it back as well. Yeah, so got loaded, ended up being about an hour and 5 minutes to get loaded. Said on the instructions they need to know when it's loaded, so I rang up and says, well, I've been on site an hour and 5. Says I haven't really been waiting, it's just taken that long to work through it and get it loaded. He says, all right, yeah, we'll talk about it at the end of a job. But with this one, when I put it into Google Maps down to Neath, where I am now, the CX had me going sort of down back the M54, down the M6 for a bit, down the M5, M50, and then sort of like the A road, sort of head to the Valleys Road, I think, over to Neath. It wasn't that much longer. I say it wasn't that much. It was like 2 hours 40 that way, or 2 hours 55 going a more direct route. So it was a quarter of an hour shorter, longer. But the more direct route was 119 miles instead of 142. So I priced the job at 140 for 142 miles loaded, 13 miles to get there. But the route I came down was actually 119. Quite a nice scenic drive. Yeah, I went to quite heavily laden though, and the weight quite far back, so I took it very steadily, you know, strapped properly and stuff. But yeah, real nice roads down to Ludlow, Leominster, right next to Brecon, not through Brecon. Yeah, decent roads really. 1B road, but yeah, pretty good drive down to here. Didn't get here until like 10 to 5. I knew this would be my only job of the day. Got it tipped. Cleaned the back of the van out because it was a bit of a mess, all the mud had fallen off it. Another thing I learned today is removal blankets absorb absolutely no water. I think they made out of nylon, so yeah, I put one of them under this where it was dripping onto the floor and it just didn't absorb any. But I do have one old bed sheet in the van, so I put that down. That caught most of the water. Bit of a shitty job this one, to be honest. Yeah, so afterwards I cleaned the van. That took 10 minutes, and then I rang the shipper and says, well, I've been here 25 minutes and I was there at the pickup 105. An hour and 5 minutes, so it's like an hour and a half in total. And he's like, well, how much do you include? And I says, well, 30 minutes either end, so it's an extra half hour. So he says, what do you want for that? And I says, an extra 10 I should do it. And he's like, yeah, I can't argue with that. So that's what I work off, £5 every 15 minutes extra weight in, all things. So £20 an hour when you're not doing any miles, just for your time and tying you up kind of thing. I think that's pretty fair, especially in a long wheelbase. Yeah, so I got 150 for the job in the end, and it was 13 miles to get there and 119 miles loaded. So it worked out 115 a mile, all miles. So that's pretty good start to the week. Pence per mile. 150 for the day, but really it's more of a half day. Yeah, I'm counting today as a half. Excuse me, as a half day really. And that's it really. So I am filming a update in the motherland in Wales, in Neath. Gair Cymraeg y dydd. Welsh word of the day. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to do for this one. I normally try and link it to the job or something, but I'm just going to do a general road / courier transport one, which is the Welsh word for street. So if you see this in the an address for somewhere in Wales, if it says stryd, so you kind of say this one how it's spelled in English kind of thing, STRYD, stryd. So stryd is the Welsh word for street. So yeah, if you see like Stryd Fawr, that'll mean high street, which isn't a direct translation because Fawr actually means kind of like big, so it means kind of like big street, but the translation for high street into Welsh is normally Streed Vowed. But yeah, anyway, Welsh word for the day is Streed. So I'm in Tesco's car park now, but there's a 3-hour limit sadly, so I'm going to be parking I think in an industrial estate just over there, and then I get up reasonably early, try and get a job out of here. I got a job out of here last week or the week before, slightly further west than I want to be ideally, but yeah, fingers crossed for tomorrow. Hello, 8:45 now on a Tuesday evening night. Bit of a slow day today really. Had a reasonable start. Woke up quite early because I got to bed fairly early. But last night where I was, there was no like jobs at all through the night. And up until like 8 o'clock or just before, nothing. It's kind of moments where you're thinking, is it working? Is the CX app working? But eventually jobs did start coming through. But because it was so quiet, I decided I'd go log into the website and do like a job search for 30 miles within Neath and see how many jobs came up yesterday, the 10th. There was only 19 jobs all day, and that catchment area included Cardiff, and I'm sure there was a Newport in there as well, so it's covering sort of a busy area. So I'm a bit worried, thinking, I might be a bit difficult to get a job out of here. So basically I was bidding on absolutely anything I could really. That came up, but I said jobs start to come through from like 8 o'clock. I got a job about 20 to 9, so it was a good early start. One of these ones I was surprised to get it because I was 23 miles from it, and it was 177 miles loaded or something to London, central London. And it popped up early in the morning because I looked at a map and it wasn't shown as ULEZ, but it was right on the City Road, I think it was. So Euston Road turns into City Road heading east. So I bid 75 pence a mile, all miles, because it's quite far from it. And I put in a note, doesn't include the ULEZ. If ULEZ is included, it's going to be an extra, 15 quid for me. Congestion charge. Didn't get that job. They actually rang me, hung up, and I rang them back, and they said, they rang me in error. And then they rejected my quote on the app, so I got the red writing saying my bid was unsuccessful. All right, fair enough, whatever. And then the same job pinged up later, and I thought, do I bid again or do I not? And I thought, well, I'll just go in with the congestion charge this time. So I went in at 165, ended up getting it. So I ended up getting it for more money in the end. But by that point, it was pick up by 9. But I didn't get there till 25 past 9. But I put that in my bid. I was like 45 minutes from it. Anyway, it's just a COVID test. So to drive over to Merthyr Tydfil, pick it up, residential address, just a jiffy bag, and then back to the M4, over the bridge, all the way to London. Like I say, yeah, just off City Road. With this one, it's one of these ones where I tried to work out parking the other side of the road, so the non-congestion charge zone. So I had a good look before I went. But as I got there, it was like really heavy traffic going along that road, literally like 10 miles an hour or less for the last like hour and a half. About 5-minute walk from the actual place, the hospital it was delivering to. And there was a McDonald's on the left, parking, free 90 minutes parking, so I just parked in there and then walked across, delivered it, had a bit of a search around the hospital to find the right place to leave it. The notes weren't very good in the job. That was quite, like, took the pressure off. It wasn't as if I was parked on the other side of the road or on double yellows with the hazards on or something. So yeah, strolled back to the thing and had myself a McFlurry, so I did buy something even though it wasn't much from McDonald's. Yeah, and that was it for the day. So I finished it just before 3, like 20 to 3. So I like to, and the shippers like it as well, properly keep the app updated, and then you can look afterwards, and you can look and say this one took 6 hours on the nose, including getting there, which was like a 40-45 minute drive. It's 165, so it's over 25 an hour, £25 an hour, which is alright. Mileage, because they didn't pay the ULEZ, it was like 83p a mile, all miles. No, didn't pay the congestion, I should say. I don't pay the ULEZ in this. It's Euro 6. Yeah, and then I sat there in the McDonald's car park, bid on a fair few jobs, didn't get them. Moved further up the A10 towards Tottenham, parked in a Morrison's, bid on a load more jobs. Ran out of my free parking there, that was 2 hours. Moved further north up the A10 to a Tesco's car park, 3 hours free parking here. So I can stay here till 9:45, but it doesn't look like, I think that's going to be it for the day. So 165 for the day, which is a bit disappointing. In previous form, I don't regret doing this. I kind of regret doing this job because it's brought me to London, which is where I don't like to be, especially it got me inside the like North and South Circulator. But I don't like London and Greater London in general. It's hard to get a job, so kind of regret taking this. But when I looked at it, it said yesterday it was quiet in a sort of Neath area, so it kind of like put me in. Yeah, don't be too selective on jobs I was quoting on, but you never know. That's the thing. I could have not gone for this job and I could have been sat there till midday or all day and not got a job. But yeah, you just don't know. So that's it for the day. I think I need to find somewhere to park. I had some fried rice earlier. I need to find a residential street or industrial estate to park for the night. Get up early tomorrow, I think, and try and get a job out of London before all the people from out of town have arrived here and then looking for backload jobs home or whatever, and they start going in cheap. So that'll be the plan for tomorrow. Bid on some jobs for tomorrow, distance jobs, but not got them. But hey ho, yeah, not really feeling it this week. Still in a bit. It was a very short holiday, but it's getting back in the swing of it. Hot post-holiday blues, they say, isn't it? It's getting back in the swing of it. Yeah, it's very short, like. So yeah, but don't know, just not feeling it so far this week. Hoping to have a good busy day tomorrow. Get more back into the routine of it. Right, Wednesday evening now, 7:45. Bit of a strange one today. So I was in sort of like North London, Tottenham way, just off the A10. Tramped there overnight in an industrial estate. Yeah, had to move on from that Tesco or wherever I was, supermarket. Didn't actually get my first job, even though the field was quite busy when it kind of has been, like January, February for sure, and into March. It was, yeah, I didn't get my first job till 9:45. Bit of it caught me by surprise really. It's one where I bid on it probably like over half an hour ago and you rang me up about it and I got the job. So yeah, it was picking up from Harlow, so a bit of a drive to get there, and then 3 drops, one GU52 postcode to Guildford and KT19, which is, I think it's Egham or something. Don't think it's Egham, but somewhere anyway. KT19 and then down to between Crawley and Brighton. I'll put it on the screen. Burgess Hill. So yeah, I got there. It's actually what I've been to before a few weeks ago. I did some solar panels, and it was picking up from there. Bit of a strange conversation with the guy there. He was like, "Oh, you're getting big money for this?" And I'm like, "Not really, just standard, really." He goes, "Oh yeah, because he kicked me for this one. He kicked me for this one." He was having a bit of a whinge about the shipper, saying that the shipper says, "Oh yeah, there's not many drivers available and stuff." So, but it was 154 miles, so I priced 85 pence a mile, including getting there, which is like 147 for 154 loaded miles. So it's still under £1 a mile with 3 drops. Yeah, and then he says to me, "Oh yeah, because 2 of these customers aren't even paying because they're basically, incomplete orders, so we're just having to send it out thing, but you can't expect it for cheap because they've cocked up, you know what I mean? It's they have to pay for their own mistakes, isn't it? You can't expect a courier to do it cheap just because you've cocked up." Anyway, I'll stand up, my arse is hurting. Yeah, so that put me Burgess Hill sort of, took about 5 hours to do that job. So it's about £30 an hour, time-wise. And I sat there probably not all that long really. There was like a steady, slowish stream of jobs in that area. Obviously between Brighton and Crawley, a lot less competition. I priced one job. It was this is a bit of a strange conversation with Shipper. It was a 60-mile job from Uckfield to sort of Heathrow area. I was 17 miles from it, so I thought, right, I go in at 75, which I knew was possibly a bit high, but it's one of them ones where 60 miles is kind of jobs at a minimum charge, really low miles really pay off. Longer jobs really pay off if they go well. In that middle ground, you don't do it for £1 a mile. It has to be more than £1 a mile really for me. You know, like 60 to 100 miles really, maybe 100 miles upwards. Is that £1 a mile? And then getting up towards 200, you go less than £1 a mile, slightly. Yeah, and he rang me up, this shipper. He goes, I'll be straight with you. I've only got 62 on the job. I sell this job 3 times a week for 50 quid. Can you do it for 50 quid? And I bid 75, so I said, no, can't do it for that, mate. He's like, all right, fair enough. That was the end of that conversation, but whether he's talking bullshit, if he's got £62 on a job to the end customer, and it's a 60-mile job, he's obviously not quoted enough, is he? Because that's kind of, at best, that's subby rates, that's hot shot rates. Yeah, so that was a bit of hanging. He might have just been talking crap, and then the job did sell shortly after that, or disappeared off the feed. So I just hope somebody didn't do it for 50 quid. It's like 83, 84 pence a mile, long wheelbase for a shortest job. Anyway, that, and as soon as I said no to that one, he hung up. Not in a nasty way, just, you know, end the conversation. The phone rang for another job I'd priced, which was Crawley to sort of Heathrow area again. And this was 40 miles loaded, but a small van. And I priced it 85 pence a mile, including getting there, to 48 quid. Got the job. Turned out to be a bit of a hurry job, so I got there 25 minutes. That was picking up 2 aircraft reconditioned toilets from like an aeronautics sort of company, engineering company, and delivering them to this company's place, big logistics company in sort of Heathrow area. Seem to do a lot of air freight and airlines and stuff. Done a few jobs for them now. Quite often it's bringing it to their depot, this part of the world. Yeah, got that tipped, no trouble. And that was 1 mile from somewhere I quite often sleep, this area. So Stanwell, see the church there? That's Stanwell Church. And right by that church there's a little lane. And this is like definitely the third time, maybe the 4th time, maybe the 5th time I've slept in this little street. First time in the big van, the new van, the NV400 Nissan. So people quite often ask me what I'm driving. L3H2. Yeah, so good thing there is there's a Chinese, there's a chippy. So I went to a chippy. There's two convenience stores. Yeah, and it's quiet. And I noticed when I was in North London this morning watching the feed, probably about half the jobs that ping up in and around the London area pick up. A lot of them do go to a sort of London area, but you do get ones going further afield. So I'm watching the feed tonight, hoping I get some. But if not, then I'll up early doors and try and get a job out of London, one of the longer jobs before everyone else gets here, and looking to potentially go backloads and go in cheap, which is probably like midday onwards, I think, possibly earlier, but definitely from midday onwards. So that's the plan. Yeah, starting to feel it a bit more today, even though it's a bit slow, but not doing great this week. So let's say Monday was half day and then 2 full days, so I'm probably averaging about 500 now. So that's like, yeah, 200 a day, which is the minimum I'm trying to do at the moment. Things have quieting down from last week, but more of that in the summary at the end. Right, quick update for Thursday afternoon now, just after 4. Yeah, so I was in the Heathrow area this morning. I didn't set my alarm till about 7, so I started looking at jobs just after 7. Didn't actually get my first job until 9:15, I think it was. And it's a job, it was like, I can't remember how many miles, it was something like 65 miles, and I went in at 75 quid long wheelbase from High Wycombe over to Cheltenham, because I had a few miles to get to High Wycombe because I was just south of Heathrow in Stanwell. Didn't work out great, it was just over 84 pence a mile, all miles. Yeah, so it wasn't great, but it got me out of London, which I was quite keen to do. Yeah, and over towards the west of the country, Cheltenham area, Cheltenham, Gloucester, that sort of area is normally alright. Yeah, anyway, and the pickup turned up to be from a company I picked up from before, and then when I realised, I know I'd done work for the shipper before, and I think it was from the same pickup. A roofing place, had a bit of a wait there because they were unloading a container, so I was probably like 20-25 minutes before they started loading me. I had 4 big rolls of, I think it's like flat roofing material on rolls, 4 of them, and then loads of boxes and loads of tins of stuff. It's a bit annoying, this one, like it was a bit of a grumpy guy at the pickup, to be honest. And you know, just kind of like chucked it on the van sort of thing. And I'm like, well, pots need to go to, I need to put the pots down the side of the rolls of fabric or whatever it is, because, you know, don't want to fall over and spill in. And he's pulling a bit of a face, really. And then got it loaded, pulled out and looked at the paperwork. I was van 1 of 2, or 2 of 2, with 2 vans on a job. And on the ticket it did say 1,900 and something kilograms, and it did feel quite heavy, but so I just went back to make absolutely sure that was for both loads. What I had in the ticket wasn't everything I had in the van. And that seemed to be the case, but yeah, again, just a bit unpleasant, not really, a bit rude, a guy almost, but just no need for it really. Anyway, got loaded, got over to Cheltenham, got tipped pretty quick. The other guy got there before me. Yeah, but yeah, so I had a little wait. Anyway, got it done. Yeah, and then short wait then to get my next job. So I tipped that probably like 1:15, or just after, between 1:15 and 1:30. And I think I got my next job at about 2, but it's not picking up till 4:30. But the reason I went for it is because it was Yates by Bristol, from a transport company, which I'm parked outside of now. Can't pick up till 4:30. Up to Leeds. I went in at £4 a mile. It was long wheelbase, over 206 miles, 206 quid, but I had a few miles to get here, so it's going to be like 86-87 pence a mile. All miles. So it's above my sort of target minimum that I aim for. Because yeah, I was up to like early afternoon on 75 quid. So I'm glad to get a decent second job, which will take me over 280 for the day, which is a good day at the moment, and sort of put me on track for the week. Friday's tomorrow, and I need to get home, so anyway, that's the thing so far. A bit of time to kill, so I tried to use the time productively, as I mentioned before, I think last week. I got a few late payers and non-payers at the moment, but annoyingly I wanted to log into my business banking account on my phone. I don't bring my little dongle thing, I set it up so I could use my fingerprint, but that stopped working for some reason, and now I have to log in with my little device I got at home. So I couldn't do that, so I couldn't check whether they've paid, so you can't really ring them and say, have you paid? Really, you need to check your bank account, and then if they haven't paid, then you can chase them up. So yeah, I had to scrap that idea. Tried to book the van in for a service, but it's still got an AdBlue issue. The light comes on every now and then, and now I used to get the spanner light and the AdBlue light come on, and then if it stayed on long enough I got the mileage countdown, but it normally used to clear. Had that NOx sensor, nitrogen oxide sensor replaced, and since then it's come on maybe half a dozen times for like a maximum of 2 minutes. But now what I've got on is the spanner light and the engine diagnostic light on. Since it's come on yesterday, it's been on permanently, it hasn't cleared, but it's not giving me the limited mileage. So the I think the actual AdBlue system is working, because if it faults and doesn't work, that's when it gives you so many miles before you have to get it seen to. Otherwise, once you turn the engine off and the counts go down to 0, it won't restart. So it must still be working, but yeah, I phoned the garage I took it to before and said, right, I need to book it in for a service and to get this thing looked into again. And they're saying my van's too big for that garage, so I'd have to take it to their other branch. The only branch in their network that can do vans is Stourbridge. That's quite far from me. So rang some others. A lot of them are saying, yeah, the van's too big. So this is the downside of getting a Nissan as opposed to the Renault version of this van. I went for the Nissan because it's got cruise control as standard. The Renault hasn't. But then Renault have got like this Renault Pro Plus, and you can take it to Renault truck centres and stuff and get it seen to there, I believe. That's not the case with Nissan, so that's the downside of Nissan. In the end, I didn't get it booked in, and you know, just get fed up of speaking to main dealer people. They just tell you crap, and when they don't know something, they just make stuff up, and they just get the impression they just bullshit all day. Nothing annoys me more than people that I'm a bit wound up today. If they don't know, they just make crap up and try and fob you off. That just really gets my back up, and that happened a few times. But anyway, so I still didn't get it booked in, so I've got to look for another opportunity now to try and do it again, to call when I'm on some dead time during working hours. But anyway, that's it. So I'm going to pick this up, hopefully straight. I know it's alcohol. It's 1,000 kilograms, 2 pallets. I think it's going to be booze up to a brewery. Strange. But anyway, yeah, better crack on with it. Right, Friday morning now, so got that job done last night. It's actually one of the longest pickups I had. I was one of 3 vans. Turns out the first van got loaded, so there's 2 more vans left. Another one, a lady I had a bit of a chat to, got there just before me, so she got loaded 2 pallets and went. But I needed to take 2 pallets, and there was only 1 pallet ready. The last pallet of the job was still being packed. Apparently they had problems with their packing machine, which is quite funny because it was actually packaging I was taking. It was from like a packaging cardboard printers type place to a brewery in Tadcaster. And it was, you know, if you go to the supermarket and you buy a carton of beer, like I think they call them cartons, they're like in cardboard boxes, and it's all branded and whatever colour on the outside and the name of the beer and stuff. It was basically that, 2 pallets to that. And the pickup wasn't from the transport company that I'd been to before, so I went there first. Pickup wasn't until 4:30, and I got outside the place about 10 past 4, if not just before, and I filmed the last bit. Went in, and it was like last time I went there. All the forklift drivers are just busy whizzing around loading the trailers, and they just blank you. So I was there for like 10 minutes, stood there before somebody actually talked to me. Felt sorry for me and came to talk to me. And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's not actually here. That's next door," which wasn't their premises. It was obviously one of their main customers was this packaging company. Yeah, so like I said, I had quite a wait there, but wasn't all bad because I had a bit of a thirst while I was waiting. Yeah, the complete opposite to the guy who loaded me in the morning. This guy was really friendly. I think he offered me a cup of coffee. I thought, oh, you know, it's just going to be a coffee from one of the machines, you know, the plastic cups. But no, it's a full-on proper cup of coffee. So he was a nice guy. a nice Stawells type loader guy, not like the guy in the morning. So eventually I got loaded. I was there for, it was like 5:45 by the time I got loaded and strapped up. And then it was like a 206-mile drive up here. I had to stop on the way because I wasn't going to get here till like 10:30. So I quickly diverted through Bromsgrove, which is kind of on the way, came off the motorways and back on. Cut across from the M5 to the M42, just cut out the corner. And got myself some more chips. So chips 2 days in a row. That's the bad thing about tramping and, you know, real cooking facilities possible in Iran. It's different if you're in the truck and you could have like a microwave and stuff. Yeah, it's not great diet wise. Anyway, got up here about 10:30, even with that little diversion. Bit of a nightmare or pain initially to find the entrance to this brewery. It's a proper old brewery in Tadcaster. Really old buildings and stuff. It's quite nice to see actually, because a lot of the buildings are in the north, like the old, almost looks like an old mill building, have all knocked down now. This place is still operational. Eventually found the right gates. The security's one of them ones where they give you directions and it's like, go left round there, right round here, come to the stop sign, dead ahead, then it's on your left. So yeah, I kind of got it 3/4 right, but I missed the last bit, so I ended up going around the loop again. And then a guy in a 10-mile-an-hour sight limit, and I always find, I notice on most sites, it's clearly the speed limit doesn't apply to the Terberg drivers, you know, the guys, the shunters on the trucks, Terbergs. He's up my ass. So and I was doing 10 mile an hour, so he came flying up to the back of me pretty much. And I think he could see I didn't really know where I was going, so I pulled over and he told me where to go. Just as well he did, because he was going to the place I was going to, and I needed to unload first before he says, yeah, you go in first quickly into this loading bay and unload, and I needed to put this trailer in to get loaded. Yeah, and got unloaded pretty sharpish then. Pretty sound guy that end as well. He's a northerner, so they're generally pretty chilled out and relaxed and friendly. Yeah, and then it's about 10:30, got some fuel, light was on by that point. But while I was waiting yesterday, I actually charged £10 extra waiting time on this job because it was 1.25 hours picking up and it was 3/4 an hour here. Sorry, it was a half an hour this end, so it's 1.75 hours. So I just agreed on a tenner in the end. It's one of these jobs where it says on the notes, call when loaded and call when unloaded with a POD, even though, and it says upload to the CX and call. So I had to call anyway. And the phone, and the guy, obviously I woke him up, because makes me wonder sometimes on the notes, it always, on some jobs it says call, but when you call them, they don't really want you to call. They're like, all right, okay, cheers. But you just have to follow the job notes. But I would have called anyway on this one because I had to negotiate some extra money. And with this one, they can go straight back to the customer and say there's an extra charge for the waiting because, you know, they were delayed, the goods weren't ready. Supposedly because of a machine breakdown, but you don't know whether that's just a tale, dear, but take their word for it. But anyway, yeah, while I was waiting to get loaded, I checked the jobs up here and I bid on one and got it pretty much straight away from Wetherby, which is where I am now, down to south of Manchester, but it's not picking up till 9, so it's like 25 past 8 now. So once I tipped that job last night, fueled up, and I thought, right, where am I going to sleep in Wetherby? Looked where the place was, then looked for the local supermarket, and I was thinking, can I park in their car park? Is it going to be restricted parking or not? And as soon as I looked at it, I thought, I know this place, I've stopped here before. So, show you where I am. It's kind of like Wetherby Centre, so I went to town centres that way. There's this, it's just a general car park, it's free parking. So between the hours Monday to Saturday 8 to 6 PM it's 4 hours max, but overnight's free. There's even a long stay car park over there, free car park. So it's quite nice to have a free car park. I think it's a council car park, slap bang in the middle of town. It's right next to an M&S food there, but I actually went to the Morrisons, got myself a £3 meal deal and a coffee. I stopped here before in this van. Last time I stopped here it was about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of snow, so going back into the winter. I think I just about fitted my, so it would have been in January, late January, just about fitted my night heater, and it was one of the first nights I used it. Yeah, so last 2 nights I've stopped in sort of regular spots, at my usual spot in Stanwell, and this is kind of going to be my usual spot in Wetherby now. So as I've been doing this now, I've actually on a CX working basically since March last year, when multi-drop April, and I went back on this in August full time, pretty much with the odd bit of, I think it was 4 weeks doing multi-drop December. Starting to like know of places around the country now that are good for tramping and good to places to get food and all that stuff, and use the toilet and stuff. So yeah, building my knowledge of tramping areas. So I'm going to get this job done, so this will get me to south of Manchester sort of mid-morning. Obviously needs to start looking for a job back to the West Midlands now. So yeah, that's the end of week challenge to get home. Right, Friday 5:30 now. I'm about half an hour from home. Thought I'd pull over on the way home and film the last update before the summary, and also just check the feed, see if there's any jobs that are pinged up for Monday that I might want to bid on while I've been driving the last 20 odd minutes. And quite a nice place to pull over here. So that over there, Abbots Bromley. So it's quite nice here, sort of Staffordshire. See the lake. Quite nice here. You got the road, and it cuts straight through the lake, and then you can see there's loads of people fishing around it, and the odd little fishing boat on it. Come up here cycling sometimes, or having a pass, but not for a good while. Bit too far from home for me at the moment. Fitness isn't what it used to be. There's one there. A Mamil, middle-aged man in Lycra. Popular cyclist route around here. Yeah, so that job this morning, got there a bit early. It wasn't booked in till 9. So got up, went to Morrisons, got my meal deal for the day, including my coffee. So that was a bit of a bargain, £3 for a sandwich, fruit pot, and a coffee. But the coffees from Morrisons are quite small, but hey ho. Yeah, and then I turned up 15 minutes early, just on the chance you can get it on, and yeah, they were ready, so I was out with it by just after 9. One pallet in the back, cross-strapped, and then just some like loose sheets. And these were like the pickup yesterday afternoon. They offered me a coffee. I was like 2 pickups in a row have offered me a coffee. But I've literally just got one from Morrison, so yeah, declined this time. Got loaded, and he did say when they booked it, it'll be handballing off, and can you give him a hand sort of thing. And the guy at pickup mentioned it again, and it was insulation. Insulation would be one of 2 things. If it's thermal insulation, it's really bulky but light because it's full of air. That's how thermal insulation works, a lot of it. But this was sound insulation. It's the first time I've done like sound insulation before, which basically means it's hell of a dense and really heavy. I didn't realise how quite heavy the pallet was. It was actually a ton on the pallet, and there's a few other loose bits. So it's probably about 1,100 kilograms, which was fully loaded, and I could feel it going over the M62. Didn't get much miles per gallon going up the M62 litre for the tops, but it's downhill to Manchester. So yeah, got loaded, got going, and the address was like an insulation firm, but on a private, looked like a private residential address. It was number 5 something street, so I thought, kind of assumed, but I find with delivery points, you look at the address and quite often make assumptions, and quite often wrong. I assumed I'd be meeting like an engineer there, a fitter. Knocked on a door, there's no vans outside. Says, oh yeah, it's the right address, yeah, this is the address for such and such company. And it was a lady, I might have been her partner, he wasn't there. And she's like, do you want a hand? And I'd looked at these rolls are worked out in the end. I want a pallet with near enough 50 kilograms each, which I think is why the shipper mentioned it, because that's like a 2-man lift really. So I got the trolley out. Turns out the trolley's got a flat tyre. I think when I loaded the long lengths of, when the forklift driver loaded the long lengths of roofing sheets the other day on the rolls, I think he kind of like might have squeezed the wheel on the trolley, the sack barrow, and burst the tyre. I think that's what's happened. So I need to get in a tube for that. Anyway, yeah, so turns out this lady, her mates were around, they were about to go out for a run. They were all there, all like yummy mummies, I think they call them. They were like in the poshest suburbs of Manchester. They will go about to go out for a run, sort of like late 30s, early 40s, all in their like yoga-y type running gear. It was quite a laugh actually, because one of them was used, I was unloading with one onto the sack truck, we still used it. She was taking one, and then the other 3 ladies between them, so 3 of them were carrying 1 roll each. Couldn't park immediately outside the house, probably like 20 yards down the road. It was, yeah, quite tight streets. But yeah, alright, I had a bit of a laugh with them, and it was got it done within half hour quite comfortably. But you know, it's, I said at the pickup, I said I'm fine to do handball, but it's one way and they have to take all packaging including their pallet, which he didn't seem to realise, but they said, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I just said at the thing, you have to keep all the packaging including the pallet, I'm afraid, because it's the usual story when you handball off a pallet. They're like, oh, can you not keep the pallet if you don't say? So as soon as I get there, before I start taking it down, say all packaging has to be left here because it's a one-way trip. Courier. I always say I'm a courier, so you're not from that company, you know, the company you picked up from, you're not one of their employees, you're not going back there, because most of the time people just assume you bring it out, you go back, you work for them. So I always make sure I tell them that, and tell them we're keeping everything basically. I'll tell them I can't keep it because I got to go to the next drop empty. So I'm saying I can't keep it, and I'm saying why, and it's all pretty reasonable. So generally we don't object to that. On a few occasions I've ended up lumbering a pallet. Anyway, got that one off. Definitely get out the drop it in Scarpa, this one. So I went down the road, parked in a little car park, checked the feed. It was really busy up in Manchester way. Lots of jobs pinging up, and there was about 90 on the feed of jobs, which is a lot. So scrolling through what was on there already, before I was coming to the ones that were just pinging up. There's a job on there from Manchester, about 6 miles from where I was, 20 minutes to Uttoxeter way, SD14. Blatantly a JCB job. It was the shipper who does a lot for JCB, had JCB part numbers on there. You know, must collect part numbers, blah 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 blah. But this one said pays well, which generally means a desperate. So it's 66 miles loaded, and I was 64 miles loaded, 65 miles loaded. I was 6 miles from, so that's 71 miles. I went in at 95 quid and got it, but it was desperate because it should have been picked up at 10, and I bid on it like 20 past 11. Got the job, got it done. Because it was desperate, I was kind of thinking, if they're desperate for it in the JCB plant, it was one of the main factories by the headquarters, more likely that they're going to get you straight in, and that's exactly what happened. I turned up, went to the gatehouse, gave them the paperwork, you know, several trucks and vans waiting, But he said, go straight in, mate, go to such and such bay. So it's kind of good because I got extra money for it, almost like £1.50 a mile, and got straight in, whereas JCB's known for their thing. But once I got to loading bay, I was there for probably 10-15 minutes because just had to wait my turn then, and there was a few trucks and one van. Got that tipped, and then I basically just sat around. I drove into Uttoxeter, watched the feed, done a little bit of shopping. I've not done any cheapo shop purchases, so something I realised I needed. I didn't have a Stanley knife or something. I just got a pair of scissors for it, and when I do have to handball stuff off a pallet, so I bought myself a cheapo miniature box cutter knife. It comes with 2 extra blades, £1. It was from Poundland, so it's £1. Yeah, so got that done. Didn't actually pick anything up for the rest of the day, but because I got good money on that job, that basically paid me over my minimum target of 85p a mile to get home, including the dead miles to get home. So I've worked it out. I'm more in the thing, but I've met my targets for the week. Still pretty modest. With the way it is, things are picking up, but it's still not particularly busy. So target's pretty modest, but more of that in the summary. Right, quick summary on the Sunday. This vlog is far too long. Okay, so 4.5 days, like I say, this week. So Monday was a half day. I was out 4 nights in the van. Didn't get home any days. Didn't stay in any hotels. So yeah, back in the van all week. So Monday was the half day. One job, 150. Tuesday, just the one job for 165. So not a great start to the week. Wednesday, 147 and 48, which came to 195. Still not doing great. Thursday, best day of the week, 75 and 216 for 291, which kind of like got me back on track. Friday, 77 plus 95, which is 172. So the grand total for the 4.5 days, £973, which works out, divided by 4.5 days, 216.22 per day worked. As ever, that's my pre-VAT, pre-costs, pre-tax sort of thing. So it's a long way to get from there to my take-home. Miles, 1,086, so it worked out 89.6p a mile. So that's pretty good. That's all miles loaded and unloaded from leaving here on a Monday to getting back on the Friday. Target is 85, and I do seem to be hitting it. So that's pretty good. So that's the week's numbers. Yeah, I said this vlog's far too long. Just realised it's over 15 minutes already. So I am next week. I'm going to start just do a bit more of a highlights of each day. I only mention something if it's of any real interest, really, or something out of the usual. Try and get these down close, between 30 and 40 minutes. Might have come across in this vlog looking back that I'm a bit I did say I wasn't really feeling it, particularly beginning of the week. Bit of post-holiday blues. It is picking up, but I'm kind of earning now in this van what I was in the old van when it was kind of quite busy, like late August into September. And as of tomorrow, the 17th of May, going into the next stage of unlocking. So pubs open indoors and things like that. So I think we're going to be from tomorrow at the same level of restrictions as we were sort of last summer, when things opened up a fair bit. So I'm hoping it's going to continue to get busier. The recent bank holiday weeks we've had recently have been quite reasonable. I'm hoping it's going to be more like that and get back to its normal self. Not that I had much experience of the CX, I only was on it for a month before the first lockdown and COVID hit. And even then, like March is a quiet-ish month anyway. It's just picking up from January, February, which are really quiet. So I've never really known the CX at full force kind of thing. But yeah, at least we're unlocking now. sort of getting there. Yeah, that's it really. Any comments as ever, please put them below for any questions that you think you would like my opinion on, or any tips for me or anyone else who watches. As ever, please put them below, and also as ever, thanks for watching.